Hello, my name is Mary Grunt. In this presentation, I will be discussing teaching techniques that can be used to teach listening skills to English as a second language students. I think this skill can be taught using a couple of different teaching philosophies or a combination of more than one. The objective of the lesson that I will be sharing with you is to teach students how to listen for information at their job. The job industry is the restaurant business, and students will learn how to set a table properly. Students will listen to a recording that simulates instructions they may hear from a supervisor. The recording is about how to set a table at a restaurant. After they hear the recording, they will be asked a number of questions to ensure they know the information. Now, listen to the following recording. Okay, here's how you set the table. First, you put the soup bowl on the dinner plate. Now, starting at the right, put the knife next to the plate and the soup spoon to the right of the knife. The water glass should go in the front of the plate and a little to the right. Got that? Now put the napkin over on the left. It has to be far enough away so you have room for the two forks. Put the big fork, that's the dinner fork, next to the dinner plate on the left. The salad fork, that's the little one, goes between the napkin and the dinner fork. After students hear the instructions, they must answer a few questions. First, where should the soup bowl be placed? Next, where should the salad fork be placed? Finally, where should the napkin be placed? How did you do with these questions? Depending on your prior experience, you may have done quite well. However, if you have a language barrier or have absolutely no idea about setting a table, you may have struggled with some of the questions. I did read the script rather quickly so that you might understand the struggles that students face. So, how could the activity be modified? What kind of instructions should have been given prior to the recording? What else could have been done so that the student learned how to set the table? Behaviorism impact on instruction can be seen in programmed instruction, computer-based or computer-assisted instruction, and contract learning. These instructional methods are based on the principles of operant conditioning and on the assumption that learning is acquired through repeated reinforcement of behavior. In our example, students could have received study guides prior to the recording. Even without knowing the English language, students could have studied the guide so they could understand the concept. Another approach could be to repeat the recording a number of times, slower of course, so that students can either take notes or hear the information a number of times. The repetition of the process may help some students finally grasp the concept. The outcome of the recording is for students to memorize the layout of how a table should be set. Some students do quite well with memorization, and may do very well on the activity if it was introduced in this format. Behaviorism is commonly seen in adult vocational education. Concern as to if the student is learning is not as important as how the student performs. It is not important to know why a table is set in a certain manner as it is to know that the table can be set properly. Behaviorism also involves reward. The reward may be the outcome and knowing that the student can do the task. Holistic education places the responsibility for learning with the student. The student is free to learn what he or she wants to learn and in a manner that is desired by the learner. The student determines if the lesson is applicable for their life. In our example, you might think, what happens if the student doesn't want to learn how to set a table? However, in this case, the teacher becomes the facilitator and helps to promote cooperative learning. The teacher will explain that a recording will be played to teach how to set a table in a restaurant. Students work together to determine how they want to learn the skill. The teacher may help with guiding the student with ideas that might best suit the classroom. Since the outcome of the activity is for students to learn how to set a table for a job, cooperative learning may work well. Students can work together and come up with an approach to listening to the recording. They may all have their own ideas. They may choose to break up the video in parts, with each person responsible for a section of the recording. With this approach, all students become involved in setting the table. Although this is a great learning experience for the group, it may not be practical when only one person is responsible for setting the table. Progressive education involves practical and hands-on problem solving. The teacher's role is to provide guidance and directions, along with ideas of how the student can learn. Students rely heavily on what they already know and use it to their advantage to help them learn a new concept. Students figure out why something works a certain way and why they are learning the concept. The activity that the students are doing is practical and relevant to some of them. Others can also see why it may be relevant at home or at a family gathering. By providing students with actual dishes and flatware, they can act out the activity while they are learning. After the table is set, they will be able to answer the questions correctly. Not only will students learn about the location of each item on the table, but they will also learn the definition of each word. Students can do this activity before having a meal in the classroom. Then they will be able to see why it makes sense to have the placeware in a certain spot on the table. Let's try this activity one more time. The class will need the following: a dinner plate, soup bowl, knife, soup spoon, water glass, napkin, dinner fork, and salad fork. You could have one set for the classroom and have students work together, or have enough that each student has their own set. The items also do not need to be real, but could be made out of paper. A table should be set up so that the items can be placed on the table. Before the recording is played, the student or the teacher should explain each item and its use. Before playing the recording, give instructions to the student. Student, you will be listening to a recording on how to set a table. As you hear where each item is placed on the table, go ahead and place that appropriate item in its place. Don't worry if you don't get it the first time. I will replay the recording a second time. You can also ask for help from another student. Are you ready? Setting a table. Okay, here's how you set the table. First, put the soup bowl on the dinner plate. Now, starting on the right, put the knife next to the plate and the soup spoon to the right of the knife. The water glass should go in front of the plate and a little to the right. Got that? Now, put the napkin over on the left. It has to be far enough away so you have room for the two forks. Put the big fork, that's the dinner fork, next to the dinner plate on the left. The salad fork, that's the little one, goes between the napkin and the dinner fork. So how did you do? Hopefully you were able to hear the information better the second time listening to the video. In this video, you learned how to teach a listening activity using the behavioral, humanistic, and progressive approaches. Even though I felt the progressive approach would work best with the activity, any one or a combination of multiple approaches would have worked fine. When working with adults, you may find that you need to try something different each time you work with your students. It is important to know your audience and be willing to change the activity as needed. I hope this video has helped you understand the difference between behavioral, progressive, and humanistic philosophies in adult education.